All right, well, I want to welcome everybody to NYCFC House. This is part of the Chalk Talk series with Patrick Vieira today. My name is Glenn Crooks. I'm one of the radio voices for NYCFC on WFAN and also co-host Soccer in the City podcast, which is on iTunes. If you don't subscribe, you should, because if you listen, you know, sometimes we're critical of Patrick's decisions and his lineups, and we have a lot of fun with that. Yes, but he's okay. He's okay with it. He's okay. Well, guy to my left, 456 club appearances for Arsenal. Milan. Also Juventus, Inter Milan, and then he finished up with Man City. So, hand for Man City. 107 caps with the French national team, which included a World Cup championship in '98. Yeah. And a European championship 2 years later. But maybe the most notable thing for Patrick was 2004, the Invincibles. He was captain of Arsenal. Undefeated, which didn't happen before, it has never happened since, unprecedented. Patrick does also hold an individual record in the EPL. He is tied for the career record in red cards with 8. But on the field, this guy reinvented the 8, which is the box-to-box midfielder, the way it's done now, but nobody has done it like he does. Really, this is a pleasure for me because I have the privilege before every game to spend 15 or 20 minutes with Patrick. We're on the road, we have a coffee talking about the game. And ladies and gentlemen, in his second year as head coach of New York City FC, Patrick Vieira. They love you, Patrick. Good thing you're winning.
Love and love, you know.
So I mentioned the red cards, but you know, when I look back at them, and I've seen a lot of them on film, the impression I get is that you're fighting for your team. And so I heard a radio interview earlier this week, Henry Winter. Henry Winter is one of the top soccer journalists in Great Britain. I'm sure he's interviewed you many times, and he has seen you play many times. So the obvious thing to talk about is the debacle at Anfield last week when Liverpool defeated Arsenal 4-0. But what Henry Winter was asked in this interview is, what is it that Arsenal is missing? And he said, they need a warrior like Patrick Vieira. That's what they're missing. Now, I'm curious, that label, I'm assuming you like that label, warrior, don't you?
It's quite flattering. And, you know, that was my strength. I didn't have the quality or the technical quality like a Zidane or a Henry or a Bergkamp, but I had this kind of passions and I was quite really determined. I knew what was my strength and my weakness, so I just stick to what I can do best. And I was as well at the same time was quite really fortunate to play in a team where you had good players around me, and that allowed me to express my talent around that collective. But yeah, you know, when you're talking about Arsenal, I don't think this is the best way to start the conversation. But yes, when you look at the game that they had against Liverpool, of course, it was a bit difficult as an ex-Arsenal player to see the team losing 3-0, 4-0 against Liverpool.
So when I think of warrior, and the topic today is life as a manager in MLS, and we're going to lead into that. But if I look at your current team, when I think of warrior, I think of Alexander Ring. And what a goal today. Did you see the goal?
I was quite surprised. I didn't know if it was
Well, I want to share something with you because I got a text message from Alex after the game. And he said this. He said, hey, Glenn, I know you're going to be with Patrick later on. Please tell him I'll be taking all the free kicks from now on. So
it was a good goal. It was a good goal.
So while we're on the World Cup qualifiers and your boys, you had another. This is remarkable and what a heartwarming story. David Villa selected by Spain, and he got a cameo appearance today. But it was important that he got in, wasn't it?
Of course, I think it was important. It was important for him because going back after so many years and play for the national team is something that he was really proud about. And of course, for us as a club and even for the league, I think it's important to see him going back and play the international level because I think that will open so many doors for international players because that shows that you can still come and play for the MLS and having a chance to go and play for your national team.
You said when David was selected that it was massive for MLS. So you truly believe that international players, because Spain, a World Cup champion, has elected to pluck somebody from MLS, and their head coach saw Villa play some matches, right?
He came and watched the game, 2 games at the Yankee Stadium, and for him to call David to go back to the national team, it means that the level of the MLS is good enough. And I think that is sending a strong message to all the international coaches and even to the players because, of course, players from Europe, they're scared to come to the MLS because coming to the MLS meaning that they will be losing a little bit of, I don't know, view or a little bit of aura and more chance to play for the national team. And I think David, we can use him as a window and that will help us to bring more players to New York City and I think to the MLS as well.
Well, from the 35-year-old Villa, you've got the 19-year-old Angel Herrera against Venezuela, 90 minutes, and arguably one of the best players for Venezuela in that match.
Angel is getting better game after game, and I was really pleased that he played the 90 minutes because when you play international, that helps you to develop your game. And it was a really tough game for Venezuela, and he managed to play a really solid game in the midfield, and I think that when he will come back, he will be even better.
And then the fourth, Roddy Wallace, he didn't play last night, but I don't know who was at the game, but any Costa Ricans in the audience? Oh, okay. I was going to give you a chance to stand up and say your piece, but Roddy didn't play, but obviously he's an integral part of that side.
Yeah, I think it was a terrific result for Costa Rica. Winning the games 2-0 is good, and that will help them to get closer to the World Cup. And I think they will just need a point, I think, for the next game to get the tickets to the World Cup.
All right, well, let's move on. Life as a manager, and lead into it with, I want to go back to Arsenal and Arsène Wenger. Now, here's a manager that you spent 10 years with as a player. You were his captain. And it must be difficult to listen to all the negativity surrounding the club, and especially Wenger, who, you know, if you read social media, you listen to the supporters, the journalists, you know, he's under more pressure now than maybe he's ever been.
Yeah, of course. I think it is part of the world where we are. You know, manager, especially when you are manager of Arsenal Football Club or any other manager in the top 6, top 10, but especially in the Premier League because of the money involved in the game, you have a pressure to perform, to win something. And of course, Arsène or Arsenal going through a really difficult period. But I have to be honest, I'm really pleased, I will say, with the way that he handled all the pressure. I think he's always finding the right words. He managed it quite really well.
I think it's really interesting how you met, if this story is true. Now, you were at Milan. You weren't in the 18 all the time.
I spent the majority of the time in the stand in Milan.
In the stands, yes. So at the San Siro, you're in the stands, and you meet Arsène Wenger, who's in the stands as well, watching the game. I guess my first question is, why was Wenger there watching? Wasn't he managing anywhere at the time?
He's crazy about the game. He's traveling all around Europe, all around the world to watch football matches, to watch players, and it happened that he was there at the game, and he was asking me why I wasn't playing, and I was explaining to him, and this is how we met really for the first time, because at the time when I was playing for Cannes, he was a manager for Monaco, and I played a few times against him, but never had a chance to go to play for him in Monaco.
So would you say that relationship that you built in the stands of San Siro really led you to go to Arsenal?
He told me that he was following me since I was 16, 17 years old, and knowing that he was going to Arsenal and I wasn't playing with AC Milan, and I wanted to be part of the French national team for the World Cup in '98. I needed to leave Milan to have more chance of playing the World Cup. So we had a conversation a bit few days after, and we, through that conversation, he asked me if I wanted to go with him at Arsenal.
What does it feel like when a manager like Arsène Wenger says he's been watching you since you were a teenager? Did you, is that a...
No, I was just saying to myself I wasn't that bad, you know. I had something quite interesting. But he's, you know, when you are young, you're always looking for somebody who can help you to develop yourself, because you know that you are good enough, but at the same time, it's not good enough to make a career. So I was really fortunate that I left AC Milan and I chose the right club with the right manager who helped me to develop as a player and as a person as well.
Now you're making the transition at the end of your career from player to coach, and you finish your career with Man City, winning an FA Cup in your final match, and then you start working for Man City in development, and then with the elite development squad as the manager there. Were you disappointed, disillusioned, surprised that Arsenal didn't get in touch with you or try to bring you in as a coach? I want to hear the truth too.
The door are locked, so it can stay. No, it's, you know, when you spend 9 years and you went through to so many happiness, I will say, with Arsenal Football Club, and this is the club where I really grew up as a person and as a player, and that was the place that I played my best football, because I stayed there from 19, 20 to 29. So I was really at the peak of my game. And of course, yeah, I was a little bit disappointed not having a phone call and ask me if I needed something for the after career. But at the same time, I do understand it is really difficult. And I was lucky as well, because I was at the right time, at the right place at the right time, because there were some people in Manchester City who knew what I could bring to the football club, and today I am where I am, and I'm really happy with that.
Well, New York City's fortunate as well. Man City to New York City, you make the move to MLS last season. What inspired that? And I'm just curious as to the first time they brought it up to you, were you at all skeptical? And I imagine when you came over, some of your mates and comrades and former teammates were like, what are you doing?
No, it is a really difficult question that I had to answer, because being playing in Europe, I love the US, I love New York, but only for holidays. So coming and live in New York, it's not just about me, it's about the family as well. So you need to get all the right answer, and talking with the family about the move. And of course, it is a really good experience for the family as well, because my little one, she's going to school here, and she love it. The wife enjoyed New York, so it's not a bad city. And then when the family is happy, and when you answer all these questions, then you can look at the professional level to see if you can do what you really want, and if you can't really play the way that you want it to. So when I had to sit down with Claudio, is the sportive director, Brian Marwood, and of course Ferian, and talk about the way we want to develop the football club, I was really excited about it. It's a really good project.
So you were quoted as saying, quote, when you manage abroad, you put yourself in a different situation, you learn about yourself. So you've been here almost 2 years now. What have you learned about yourself?
I think I'm more patient than I thought I was, you know. Of course, because the game is not different. I think the rules and what you need to adapt to is different from Europe. I think when you're talking about the salary cap, you're talking about the international sport, you're talking about the trade that you can do during the season. all of this kind of rules, I'm not used to it. So sometimes it's really frustrated because you want to do something that you can't because the rules doesn't allow you to do it. But at the same time, I knew it before getting here, so that's why it's important for me to have people around who can help me to answer all these kind of questions.
Well, let's get to some of those rules. I really want your opinion.
It will take long.
But no, one thing David Vieira said after a game recently, he was asked a question about MLS versus Europe, and the question was pinpointing La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, Ligue 1. There's really only 2, 3, sometimes maybe 4 teams, but that are really capable of winning the league because of there's no salary cap. And in MLS, it's more of a, at the beginning of the season, all 22 teams feel like they can win MLS Cup.
Because the budget is the same for everybody. I think you get an amount of money for everybody, and then the smartest one try to make something happen in the market. But I think it is not fair to compare the MLS with the European League because of the history of Europe and the MLS, because the MLS is just, what, 20, 25, 30 years old? So there's still a really long way to go. But I think...
But Vieira liked it. He applauded it. He lauded MLS for the fact that every game's competitive and everyone has a chance. He liked it.
When you're talking about, for a young coach like myself, coming to the MLS, I think it is the best school, I will say it, because you have to take so much into consideration before making a decision. In Europe, you buy a player. If you're not satisfied with the players, then you can go and buy another one.
Exactly.
But in the MLS here, you buy a player, you still have to keep him or you have to trade him at the end. But what I mean is that any decision that you make can have a massive impact on your roster. So you have to think twice before making a decision. You need to know the team and the players that you have around. You need to know the type of players regarding the type of games that you want to play. So you have to be really clear, and that's really helped me as well to be more clear about the way I want to play the game and how and which type of players that I want. And that is really good for me.
And not to demean the level of MLS, but when you said you needed to be patient, you were talking about some of the rule structure of MLS, but also with players, because at times maybe they can't quite, your desire to build out of the back and do things like that.
At the beginning, he was frustrated. I was frustrating about it, but at the end, it's normal. It's normal because when you're taking a young player like Carrie Shelton, Carrie is got the desire, he's got the passion, he loves the game, his work ethic is fantastic. But you can ask him to do what a kid in Europe do with the same age. You understand what I mean? Because Carrie may be spending like 3-4 hours a week in training, where a kid in Europe will spend 10 hours a week in training. So when you spend more time on the field, you become a better player. And that is the problem that we have in the US. It's not just about City. I think kids, to develop their skills, need to spend more time on the field.
So you're really taking that to the development angle of soccer.
Yeah. Of course, this is more a development problem than a proper quality or proper love for the game.
All right, let's talk about some other challenges here. International break, and I put that in quotes. Yeah. So right now, as we're chatting, having a good time here, talking to the supporters, we've got 8 MLS teams preparing for games today. Many of them are in situations where they're fighting for a playoff spot. They don't have some of their key players because they're in these qualifiers. Some of them are in international friendlies, by the way. And coaches obviously keep their jobs or lose their jobs due to wins and losses or making the playoffs. So what of this? What do you think?
I have to be politically correct?
No, the doors are closed. They're locked, and it's not being filmed.
It is. It is really difficult for the coaches because, like New York City, we have a game on Wednesday and we have 4 players going from international.
No, I should include that game. There's 5 games. You in Kansas City, you have to figure out what you're going to do, right?
It is really frustrating because fans are paying the tickets to come to watch the games and try to watch the best starting 11. And when the fans come into the stadium and then we are missing all these international players, it is frustrating for the fan, but it's even more frustrated for myself and for the coaches in general. And that is a big problem, I think, that the league has to resolve, and early they will resolve it, and better it will be for everybody.
Well, let me give you three options, and you tell me which one you prefer.
Yeah.
All right? Lengthening the season, compacting the games and playing more midweek games so that you would have your full roster rather than losing them on an international break, or keep it the same. Those are your three choices. Because if you keep it the same, you're not making it so compact and having so many games.
I think make it compact can be one of the best options, because if you make the league longer and knowing the heat and in the winter to play, I think it will be quite really difficult. But to be a little bit more compact, having more games in a midweek, I will be more for that one.
So as a coach in MLS, travel, that's the players that come from different countries when they come here, the travel is always an issue. Yeah. But for the coach as well, because you're trying to keep your teams fresh. Now, MLS also has these strict rules about commercial and charter. But I like your outlook recently, and I don't know if you were just saying it because it sounded good.
I was saying to please somebody, yeah.
But you said you like the commercial flight. This is commendable. You enjoy the commercial flights because your team, and you said it was good for MLS, your team and your staff was amongst the people.
That is a typical journalist. They're always taking it the way they want to take it, you know? No. I was talking about the commercial flight compared to Europe. Europe, of course, teams are going to the private jet and they're moving from one city to the other city. And of course, this is the best options. And I would love the MLS to have that. But of course, it's not the case, so we have to take it in the best way. And what I love about the charter, of course, is the interaction between the fans when we are traveling and the players. And what I love about it is the fact that, because of course the league, the MLS is quite really new, because sometimes we're traveling and people are asking if we are a soccer team or a basketball team, or so that means we still have to do a lot of work behind to grow the sport in the country. So I think when we are traveling and we're going to JFK or any other airport, and we are all wearing the New York City gear, and we're traveling as a team, and people are asking which sport we are doing, and we are promoting our sport. And this is what I love about the traveling and normal.
All right.
I hope it's good answer.
I'll accept that. Now, prior to your arrival coming in last year, along with Veljko Paunovic and then Tata Martino this year, but prior to all that, the general consensus in MLS is that international coaches would come in and they would struggle. And for the most part, they did. There were some exceptions. But Ruud Gullit is probably the greatest example of failure. So he lasted 9 months of a 3-year contract. But this was his quote from an article. In LA, he was with the Galaxy, it just didn't work. In LA, nobody is talking about soccer, he complained. No television stations, you see it nowhere. The former AC Milan and Chelsea midfielder never grasped the nature of American soccer culture. And you come from this massive soccer culture wherever you've been. So how did you cope with that when you came here? There's a lot of soccer, but it's not the culture.
It's not the culture, because in this country you have so many sports, and soccer is like the number 5th or number 6th. But what I love about the challenge is, of course, as a football club, try to win a silverware, but I think we have responsibility is to grow our sport in this country. And that's why I think when coaches or players come into this country, we have a responsibility to make this game that we love so much bigger and bigger for people to come and watch our game.
So these international managers that come in, the three of you have done quite well. Pano in the second year has really elevated it. You've gotten the team into the playoffs the first year. It's better this year. Martino comes in and draws in all these creative players. They call it attack first, and he's got the Bielsa influence. Are you as a group and in general bringing a more tactical side to the game in MLS, which was always considered physical, A lot of running, we've heard that from Pirlo, a lot of running.
He doesn't like it.
And, but not so technical and tactical. So it seems like, and I will admit, I was like, nah, let's have American coaches coach the American game. But you guys have won me over in that you're sharing things that I think we're not aware of.
I think it's just the experience. I think we had different experience, and what we want is, of course, we want to play the game the way we see in the game. But having played in Europe, we have a tactical knowledge, being playing under some of the greatest managers in the world, that help to bring something to this country. And I don't think that we do something better than the American coach. It's just we're doing something different. And I think since I'm being here, there is some American coaches that I saw how they work, how they play, and I take a lot from them as well. I think it's just part of exchanging with them and try to improve, to develop ourselves. But it's just with time, I think like coaches, they will be just like the players. We all going to improve, and this is how the league will go level after level.
So I think it was my first question when I had a chance to sit down. Do you remember that when we first sat down? No, you don't.
We drank too many coffees together.
Yes,
We're spending a lot of time together.
It was, and a lot of people ask this question. You played for Wenger, you played for Jose Mourinho at Inter Milan, and you played for Fabio Capello at both Milan and Juventus.
Yeah.
So, you know, three highly regarded managers, obviously. And so the question was, what are the particular influences that you're taking from each of those three and incorporating into your managerial style? You said Wenger, style, the way they play. Mourinho, match preparation. And Capello, you talked about family, you know, making the team a family. Now that you've been here 2 years, who do you most resemble from that group, and who provided the greatest influence to what you need here in MLS? Good question, huh?
Yeah. I may have to say Arsène, because of course, spending 9 years with him, what I really loved about Arsène is the confidence and the belief that he gives to the players to go on the field and express themselves. And this is something that it's really important, because I believe that if you want to get the best of the players, you need to give them a little bit of freedom to express themselves. And this is what I try to do. And at the same time, I'm the coach, so to be fair to everybody, I have to have an organization where players can express their talent and express themselves. So at the same time, Mourinho, I quite like the details that he was giving to the player. And I believe that players, more information that they have, better they will be prepared when they will be on the field. And that is, for me, is quite important as well. And of course, Capello, when we're talking about direction, about family, about love, because as a team we spend more time between us than we spend with the family. So if there is no happiness, if there is no love between players, it's going to be really difficult to achieve our target. And I think if you put all these three ingredients together, that can be a successful football club, a successful team. So we're still a long way to go a little bit. Just take off the pressure a little bit, you know. But we are working well. We are working well.
The Capello story I really like is you were 19 years old, you were at Milan. They kidnapped you is the way you termed it. You were in Cannes, and some car pulled up, took you to a jet, and you flew to Milan. You couldn't talk to your parents, your agent wasn't there, and they made you sign a contract. Is that true?
You know,
well, we don't
you say it in a simple way, so.
But the part I like is Capello took care of you the way you put it, that despite the fact you weren't in the 18 a lot, weren't playing, he didn't ignore you. You still felt a part of it, which I think would be something that you took with you on your coaching.
Especially when you are young. I was 19 years old. I get to the dressing room, and at the time you only allowed 3 foreign players in the squad. And at AC Milan, I was number 6. So for me to get time to play, it was really difficult for me to get some minutes. So I was getting, of course, frustrated because young, you want to play, and when you are young, you always think that you are better than the one in front of you. And I was getting frustrated. But Capello showed me a lot of attention. He took me to do some individual work, and I think that really gave me a lot of confidence, and that is something that helped me to develop myself, and that was really good.
In a few minutes, we're going to allow question and answers from all of you. So if you got something, or if you think of something, make sure you put it down. This season, Patrick, one of the great moments since I've been here was at the end of the Derby match at Yankee Stadium. David Villa 3, Bradley Wright Phillips 2. But it was Villa at the final whistle, jumping into your arms, and that extended hug. Oh, it's a great one, man. It's a great one. But what I thought about was, here, he's 35 years old. How old are you?
41.
40? You don't look a day over 40. But I see you in training sometimes, and I'm just curious. You have Ashley Cole, who's 36 or 37. Do you ever have that bug that you wish you were still playing, that you don't, no.
Not at all, Glenn. Because I stopped at the right time. I couldn't achieve anything more because physically the game went to a different level. I had injuries. I wasn't play at my best. I left Arsenal when I was 29, going to 30, and you know, when you get around that age, you always there's always somebody who push you out of the door. And at the time, it was Cesc Fabregas was coming through to the youth, and of course, when you have somebody who's younger and as good as somebody else, so you open the door and you say thank you very much, next one. And this is the world where we're living, and I didn't want it to do the extra year, and that's why I have a massive respect from Mancini, because at Manchester City, he was after the FA Cup, he was telling me that he's going to buy 2-3 midfielder, that I will play less, and I couldn't accept to be on the bench or not to play, and I couldn't accept young players going through too easily, and that was the best decision that I make, and I was glad I make it.
You met Joe Girardi recently.
Yeah.
You invited him up to practice. Well, you saw him at the Yankee Stadium for the Yankee-Mets game. Yankees won, good job. They won again today. Anytime the Yankees beat Boston or the Mets, it's a great day. Yeah. So, but you met Girardi, and then you invited him into training. He lives in Purchase, so this was brilliant. But you brought him in, and you told me one of the things you discussed, and it relates to this, is your transition, because Girardi had to do it, from being a player and having that adulation and that adrenaline of being the athlete to the coach. So what specifically, if you could share, what was?
It's all about thinking about other people, before thinking about yourself. And that was a really difficult transition, because when you play, you always look after yourself, you prepare yourself, everything is quite really individual. And then when you move to the other side, you have to take care of 26 players, you have to think about the staff, and then you can think about yourself. And that transition is really difficult. So the first few weeks, it was, I would say months, it was quite difficult to accept that I have to think about other people before thinking about myself. And that was a difficult transition.
The other thing, earlier this year, I wanted to bring this up because I found it so interesting. I don't know if anybody here went to this, but Patrick, in a very similar venue, was interviewed by a gentleman named John Krakauer, who's a neurologist. And you talked about trauma, severe trauma. He brought it up, and then it kind of hit you, the '98 French team. But the discussion was young men who had some sort of severe trauma when they were very young react in a very positive way in a competitive environment in the big situations. Can you talk a little bit about how it just kind of resonated with you in the '98 team that won the World Cup?
I think there's two things here. It's about winning the World Cup in '98. I think we managed to win it in a really difficult period in the French history, I would say it, because that was a period where we were going through a difficult period of racism in France, and winning the World Cup with all the French, but colonized, because the French colonized so many African countries. So you had we managed to win the World Cup, and the picture of the French national team was really something that represents the nation. And that's why we were quite really motivated to win that competition, because we wanted to send a message to the world that it doesn't matter where we're coming from, but we are French and we are proud and happy to be French. So that winning the World Cup was bigger than just lifting the trophies, was sending a really positive message to the world, but to the French people in general as well. And of course, we were talking as well about, when we are talking about the French national team and the players in that team, and a really close friend of mine was Lilian Thuram. And we grew up in a different way, and we met together, we play against each other, and then we play together in Juventus, we play together in the French national team, and we became quite really close when we play for the French national team. And we've been talking about our life in general, how we grew up, our parents were separate, and we grew up in a tough place, and I believe that helped us to be more stronger and to fight a little bit more for something within the table. And when you look at the history of the French players in that period, I think we had something in common, is that we fight really hard to get something that was on the table, I would say. I don't know if I explained myself quite well.
No, but where I want to transition is, now you come to America, and American players, I can tell you, I've been coaching in America since 1980. American players, for the most part, are pampered. Some come from different backgrounds where that's not the case. So now you have players sometimes you're coaching that maybe haven't had to fight for things like you did. Is that difficult to deal with? Or how do you deal with that?
Of course it's difficult to deal with, because knowing my experience, it's difficult to understand that when you have everything and why you don't, there's a minimum to do. But I think we don't, and I don't want to think that if you have everything, you can't be successful. I think it's the wrong way to approach.
Yeah.
But I personally believe that people who grow up maybe in a tough area will want to succeed more than the one who had everything. But it's difficult to put everybody in the same box and think that.
But you even suggested when you talked to John that when you're recruiting or out looking for transfers and things like that, you're looking at their background completely to see if they've had any of these traumatic.
Because the game is, every details I think will help to try to make the right decision. So of course when we recruit a player, we want to know his background, because in our football club we try to build, and we want to bring good players, but we want to bring good people as well. Something that I'm really proud about is the atmosphere in the dressing room between players. And this is one of the best atmosphere I've seen in the game. And that's why every time that we're going to bring a player inside the dressing room, we have to make some work, and we want to find any kind of details who can help to anticipate anything in the dressing room.
All right, this could be my final topic. It's my favorite one. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, video assistant referee.
Give them time.
So, here, listen to this. You're going to love this. 2012, you're in a development position. You haven't started coaching the EDS in Manchester City. And Mario Balotelli retroactively received a 4-game suspension after the FA reviewed a foul on, I think it was Scott Parker for Tottenham. And Howard Webb was the referee of this game. Are you remembering any of this?
The magician, yeah.
Yeah.
The magician.
So you were quoted in The Guardian about how Howard Webb was in a proper position to look right at it, and he decided not to make the call. He didn't make the call. So what you said is that puts the integrity of the referee in danger, because people say the referee has seen it, and other people say, obviously, he didn't see it. Then you continued, I think this is the danger of not letting the referee just be the referee. So to me, you're not necessarily a proponent of video review, unless, of course, you've changed your mind, which you're allowed to.
I have to support
Listen, if MLS is watching this, you can support it, but you can still object to it. But you can still.
What I mean is that we all want to help the referees. I think less mistake there will be in the game, and better it will be for the referee. But I think what we love the game is that the mistake is part of the game. I think when you look at the game, we play the game on a Saturday, you go to the bar on a Sunday, everybody's talking about the game, about the mistakes and all the stuff like that. And I think if you take it away, you kill a little bit the love and the passion that fans have to interact with each other. I am for helping the referee, but what I mean is that I think we just need to choose what the VAR will be used for. And I think for me, it's just more the goal line technology that we need more than anything else. Then the referee has to find the help with the linesman and the people around to help him. But to have somebody behind and just say that, listen, I think he's killing a little bit the game.
Well, one of the reasons I bring it up is at the last derby match, 1-1 draw at Red Bull Arena.
You really want me to be in trouble, Dave?
Yes. This is really going to dig into it. But you, after the game, but you publicly objected to a couple of things that were not reviewed. The handball and then the R.J. Allen foul on Kleshkin. But you were in a powwow after the game down in the locker area with Howard Webb, who is like the guru, is the pro referee, MLS guru.
We were talking about wine.
Yeah, I'm sure. Because Jeff Agus was there as well, like the competition director for MLS. So can you impart anything that may have been discussed in that powwow? We know that you were a little disgruntled that it wasn't used, but what was their reaction? Will they look into it a little more?
No, they fully understand that they still have, they really believe that they still need to improve some part of.
I gave you the opportunity to see the questions before you came up here.
But they need, I think they understood that they needed time to improve. I think that is something new, and when it's new, there's always confusion. But I personally believe that in the next 5 years or in the next 2-3 years, they will get better. And I think we're all going to be happy that when there will be a foul or it's going to be a goal, there will be somebody behind and we'll make the right call. But at the moment, of course, like the game we played against Red Bulls was really frustrated. I was really frustrated because winning the game, you will be a little bit closer than to Toronto. And I believe that when you're talking about the RJ incident, because of that wasn't something obvious.
Right.
But the David Vieira handball at the end, that was obvious, no?
Yes.
Yeah,
I thought it was, yes.
And when it's obvious, so that means it should be a penalty. And when you have a penalty at the 92 or 93 minutes, then you score, you get the 3 points, it's completely different.
I don't see Laura. How are we doing on time, Laura?
She's having a drink, I think she's ready.
All right. So let me ask you this. So you know, I went after this early on. Did you watch Costa Rica USA last night?
Yeah.
So would you agree that Costa Rica plays with an identity? Do you feel like they were? I see them maybe as sit back and a counter team, that they have a strong identity.
I don't know if it's the identity or if they had quite a really good game plan. I think they were quite really solid. They work really hard. They've been really smart, and they frustrate the US national team, and they wait for the right time to score the goals. But I think as a team, they work hard, and they had a really good game plan. And then if you say, yeah, they play well or they play bad, I think that is completely different. It's just about the plan that they had for this game, and I think they executed quite well.
I wanted to ask you about that identity because I don't know if I've ever actually asked you this. What is the identity that you want for the New York City Football Club? Is it complicated? Is it simple? What do you want? What's the identity of this team? Or if it doesn't have its identity yet, what do you want?
I think I always think that as a coach, I want the team to play well and to win.
Okay.
No, but it's not really easy. You want to play well because I think it is.
Yeah, but you've said sometimes to play poorly and and grind out the result might be even more significant than.
But this is what I believe that we improved from last year. I think last year we were quite naive, and I was naive because I was the one who dictated the tacticals of the team, and we were quite really open. We were taking risk because in my mind what I wanted to is to play well. But playing well, you have to make the right decision and you have to measure the danger. And I think last year we were really naive at times because we were putting ourselves in a really difficult situation where we were conceding stupid goals, and because of my fault wanted the players to play. And I think this year we take less risk, we are more solid as a team, and we still play good. I believe that you can do both. It's just about try to make the right decision at the right time, but I think as a team we are more solid than we were last year. So our philosophy is always try to play and to score goals, because what we want is to score goals. Because in the US we don't have a choice, we have to score goals. So fans don't accept the 0-0, so we need to score goals.
Well, Yankee Stadium, there doesn't seem to be any problem scoring goals. You're, as a manager of this club over the last 2 years, New York City is averaging more goals at home per game than any other team in MLS. Why is that?
I think we have this belief, this confidence to go forward with our positive and really aggressive mind going forward. We have a really good support when we are at home, and then when you play well at home, you're scoring goals, the confidence starts to build up, and I think this year we are much stronger than we were last year, of course.
I thought you were just going to say David Villa.
Yeah, but you need somebody to put the ball at the back of the net, and David has been fantastic for us. But to allow David to put the ball at the back of the net, you need somebody to bring him that ball. And I don't want to take credit to the players around, because when you look at Jack and you look at Rodney, they work really hard, they work really well. Maxi provide the goal as well for David. So, you know, when everybody playing well, that will become more David to score the goals.
I want to go back to Warriors. I said I think Alex Ring is a Warrior. You'd agree with that, right? Warrior?
Yeah, I think after the goal he scored tonight, I was going to call him something else.
What would that be?
No, it's
Ronaldinho. Something like that.
Not too fast, not too fast.
Just off the cuff, man.
No, Alex is, I think this is the type of player that we were missing last year. I think when you look at Alex Ring and Wenger, when both are on the field, we are going to a different level because of the physical presence that they have on the field.
That is what I was going to ask you. Do you think that part of the, you've obviously, there's been an influx of talent. You have 12 different players this year, but is a lot of this success due to the fact that you do have more of this warrior mentality, like hate to lose? Everybody hates to lose, but this team seems to despise it.
I think it's important when you look at all the teams who managed to win the World Cup, managed to win the Champions League, or teams winning the Shield. You can't win those competitions if you don't have strong personality, if you don't have character, if you don't have the physical presence. Playing well is good, and if you have character, personality, and the physical presence, it can be even better.
Who's the toughest guy in the team? Who would you not want to? Who would you want in the trench with you? Who would you want? You have to pick one. Sorry.
Yangel.
Really?
Yeah, he's tough.
Wow. He's a slender little boy.
He's tough.
So, you going to be able to keep Herrera? He's on loan from Man City. When do those discussions start? Like the final whistle blows?
We start talking about how we want to rebuild the team for next season, of course, and we're going to try to keep all our good players. And that is the hard work from Claudio.
But you had a little, I don't know if frustration is the right word, at the transfer window. You know, you kept telling us 3 players, 3 players, 3 players, and then that last week it got to be, well, I hope we get 3 players. And again, probably we're back into MLS, salary cap, and it never quite worked out.
It's still open, no?
It is.
Yeah. Anything
Well, for people who are free agents. Yeah. So who are these trialists you're bringing in?
We try,
But
because
the first guy's gone, right? The first guy's gone? Tom Ford?
Tom Ford, yeah.
All right.
But you're still considering different individuals
Yes,
right
of
now.
course, because we need more bodies, and we want to bring the right player. I strongly believe that there is the right player there, and we just need to find him. But what like I was saying early on, we want to bring good players, but we want to bring somebody who can fit really well in the dressing room as well. And if we don't find the player, then we're going to stay the way we are.
So as you move closer to the end of the season, trying to secure one of the top 2 spots in the Eastern Conference, what is this? You conceded the conference to Toronto a couple of weeks ago. What was that all about?
I was just being realistic.
Well, there were some, the colleagues of mine, we were wondering if this was a motivating factor. You know, you were trying to motivate your team. You know, sometimes coaches use the press. Did you know that? They use the press to motivate their team.
I never crossed my mind.
Why is Toronto, they are the best team in the league this year? I mean,
Yeah, I think
Why is that?
Yeah, of course. I think they are playing well, winning games, scoring goals, top players playing at their best, and they have a really good roster. I think they can allow themselves to miss 2-3 players because they have people behind who can come and keep the same level of quality, and they play with a lot of confidence.
Is your biggest concern heading into the playoffs? Well, I know you well enough, you probably won't
Don't ask.
say it quite the way I'd like you to, but the back line, there's a lack of depth there. I mean, you're Ethan White, Mikey Lopez is used a little bit back there, Maxime Chenot, we're not sure when any of these guys are coming back, so that was where you were trying to fortify things for sure during the off season last year, but now it's taken a bit of a hit.
Yes, of course. Having Ethan out, Mikey out, Maxime out, that is a lot.
Oh, Matarrita, I'm leaving out Matarrita.
Yes, so that is a lot. So that's good that we have some players who can play in a different position, but we are a lack of number at the back.
Ben Sweat, you know, he's one of these guys who he really, you've got to be proud of what your staff has done to help develop him, plus, you know, what he's accomplished individually this year. I mean, he was a good player for the Tampa Bay Rowdies, but I don't think anybody knew about him, and
You guys brought him in, and
I think he deserves all the credit. And of course our scouting department, because they went and find Ben, and Ben came over and really buy into what we try to do and the way we want to play. And I think the way we want to play really suits his quality, and he's been really good, and we are really happy with him on and off the field. And I believe that there is more players as well over there at that level.
what do
We
you
just need to find them.
Last question for me, and then we're going to open it up. Anyone would like to talk to Patrick? What are your expectations the rest of the way? How do you see it going? But you know, you have a crystal ball at home. I know you go day by day, game by game.
Day by day, game by game,
All
and
right.
try to get the best of the players. I think if, as a coach, I manage to get the best of the players day after day, week after week, and they perform at the level that I know they can do, and then we can achieve good things.
can New York City win MLS Cup?
We are one of the team who work really hard to do it.
All right. How are we doing this technically? Are we, for people that want to ask questions, just stand and ask?
If people could just, say it quite loudly.
Okay. Yes. Hi. But why don't you stand up? No. Yes.
No, me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell us your name and where you're from.
Heather, I live in Brooklyn.
Excellent.
My question, going back to you as a manager now, not just as a former player and a former team captain and a former champion. Looking at the Arsenal squad 25 players, do you see any potential Warriors in that group, or are we just done for the season?
You really want me to be in trouble too. I think there's a quality there at Arsenal. I think when I watch them play in the weekend, I really enjoy watching them. And I think they play some really good football. And I think we were talking about leadership, and people were saying that there is no leader in the team at Arsenal. And that is wrong. Because for me, Ozil is a leader. Cech is a leader. Sanchez is a leader. I think because there's a different type of leadership. But I just believe that what they need is to be a little bit more proud of who they are and the club that they're playing for. But I believe that there's a quality there for them to turn it around. And they only played 3 games. And it's still a long way. There's a lot of frustration, but they have got the quality. And I think in our game of football, soccer, the way we want to call it, the quality of the players is really important as well. And I personally believe that the coach gives the structure, but the talent of the players will make the difference. And if you don't have players, it's difficult for you to win games or to win the silverware. And I believe that Arsenal have the players to win something.
It is interesting how the teams with the best players generally win. So how important is it, coach?
And then there's a structure who allows you to win the game. Because when there's no coach, you may going to win one game, but with the quality of the coach, you can win a silverware. That's why we're always talking about there's no right or there's no wrong in the game. Because when you look at Mourinho's philosophy is completely different from maybe Zidane or maybe Wenger, but they all been successful on their way. And that's why I think players are really important.
But that's what makes those matches interesting. Red Bulls, New York City, it's a great match. It's a fun match because it's 2 teams that have different tactics.
Of course. And because the coaches are different as well.
Sir?
Matthew.
Sorry, yeah, stand and shout.
Matthew from Brooklyn. Given your managerial decision to bench Pirlo and Glenn bringing up the more physical nature of MLS, it did seem like Pirlo's technical ability, he would get knocked over a lot. Everyone was upset he didn't get fouled. Do you think he was being fouled, and how hard was it to have that conversation?
This is the last question, I hope, no?
But I'll cook that a little bit. I think the way you've managed Pirlo has been exceptional because we see him in training. We see him doing the sprints after the games, and he's bought in. But it's hard. It must have been difficult.
Of course, it's difficult. How do you want a player who won the Champions League, won the World Cup, won all the trophies around, understand that he's not going to play in a weekend? It's difficult because he's never been in that situation before, so it's really difficult for him to understand. And I accept that. And I accept that he's not happy at all. And that is normal. That is why he is who he is, and that is why he had the career that he had, because of his proudness to be on the field and to play every weekend. And this is a situation that I have to manage as a coach. And the best way that I can do it is to be honest and open with him. And I have a conversation with him. We talk, and I'm a huge fan of Pirlo. And at the end, I have to make a best decision for the team. And it is a really difficult situation, and it's not easy at all. But the way that he take it, the way that he conduct himself in training, he's been a fantastic example for the players. And that is why I always say that in this football club, with Frank Lampard last year, with David, Andrea, or Maxi this year, we really managed to bring not just some really good players, but really good role model who accept the decision of the coach. And for me, it's more easier, we said, because of who he is as a person and the way he's taking things.
I heard you had to buy a case of his wine to appease him. Is that true?
2 cases.
2 cases.
Yes, sir.
I'm Jordan from Yonkers, New York. Just wondering, obviously we've missed a lot of players, yellow card accumulation, injuries, international duty. When you find out somebody's not going to play the next game, what are you telling the player that's replacing them, the player that's getting, not playing, and then the players around them to kind of like ease that transition for the player?
I always remembered one quote from Arsène Wenger was telling me, less a manager talk to the players and better it is. Less explanation to give to the players and better it is. I like to explain sometimes to the players why they don't play, but I don't do it all the time. I think it's difficult for players to accept the fact that they don't play. So it will be difficult for them to accept any explanation I will give because the fact will be the same. So they will just have to accept my decision. And yes, sometimes I can have a players in my office and explain why, because it can be a tactical decision, and then I will explain, but majority of the time, I will keep it, and they will have to respect the decision.
But if they're only like missing one game, so we know like Rodney's missing 2 games now, what are you telling the replacement, even though he knows Rodney's coming back in like 2 games? We're gonna miss
Jonathan Lewis would be the example, right?
Yeah,
So,
but I don't want to tell them too early they're going to play because maybe of the lack of experience. I don't want them to get too much stress and to get too much nervous about the game and play the game on their mind before the day of the game. So I'm just waiting maybe the day before or even in the morning of the game and telling them if they're going to play or not. But there will be some really decision to make because Rodney is not going to play, David is not going to play, Yangel is not going to play, Alex Ring will not going to play. So there will be some young players like James may going to be in the squad and he may have a chance to play. I didn't make a decision yet.
so if Ring, I know you just answered it, but if Ring and Herrera can't go on Wednesday night, who's starting in the midfield?
I even don't know myself.
Yes, sir.
My name is Chris from New Jersey, and I just wondered, you played in Champions League final, World Cup final. Do you feel more passion playing for your country, France, or for like a club, Arsenal?
You know what is funny is that I never played the Champions League final. I left Arsenal the year they went to the final, So, no, it's, I think when you represent your country and you play a final, that is what you've been dreaming about since you were a kid. I remember myself when I was really young and just wanted to play in a World Cup and just try to score goals. And when we had a chance, and when I had a chance to be part of the French national team and had a chance to lift the World Cup, that was a dream come true. So that is, I think, the maximum that the players can, I will say that, yeah.
Thank you.
Got time for one more? Ooh. Laura, can we go 3? Let's go 3. Patrick says 3. He's the boss. All right. Yes, sir.
All right. Hi. I'm Tashi. I'm from Queens, but I'm actually from Tibet. I'm not from Queens. But so I just wanted to take the time to thank you for the shot talk. It's a dream come true to see you. So and also thanks to Glenn for organizing this thing, I suppose. Anyway,
It's not a dream come true to see me. Go ahead.
All right, so a couple of questions about Arsenal, if you don't mind. So it sounds like you have good memories about your time playing there. So my question is, did you ever keep in contact or keep in touch with any of your teammates or Arsène Wenger himself or your backroom staff? And the second question, what do you think Arsène Wenger's next step should be as a manager or not as a manager? And what, maybe this is the wrong crowd, but do you ever see yourself going back to Arsenal in some other capacity? As part of the coaching team, or as manager yourself, or in any capacity?
I think, I'm of course still in touch with the players and the people who are working at Arsenal because this is where I spent 9 years, and 9 years we won a lot together. We grew up together, and we've been really lucky to be successful, I would say. So Pires, Bergkamp, Henry, Sol Campbell, Martin Keown, we're still in touch. And when I go to Europe, we always meet, or when they come into New York, we always manage to spend some time together. And Arsène, I think his next step is to stay at Arsenal because he's crazy about coaching. He's crazy about the game, and I think that the day that you will leave Arsenal, that is when fans who've been really critical will find out how difficult it will be to replace a man like him, because he loved this club so much, and there is nobody who will want more successful for this football club than Arsène Wenger.
But compared to how he was in the early 2000s, wouldn't you say that his control of the dressing room, for example, has kind of changed over time as opposed to how it is now? Maybe the players don't play.
To answer that question, you have to be in the dressing room.
Okay.
But for me, I will not gonna understand a player that will not have any respect for Arsène, for what he represents, and for who he is as a person as well. And that is something from outside, it will be difficult for me not to understand.
Do you ever see yourself coming back to Arsenal in this capacity? Or?
Maybe one day, I don't know.
I don't know.
Then?
Will you bring me with you?
No,
Yes.
I'm quite really happy here. I tell you, is of course, you know, I had the chance to play for Juventus, for Inter. I played for Arsenal, and of course, you're always going to dream to coach one day the team that you had the chance to play for. But to manage those teams, you need to deserve it, you know, not because you play for those teams.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Daniel. I live here in New York, but I'm from Turin, Italy, so I'm a huge Juventus fan. And my question is for you, as a player who was playing in Juventus in 2006 during the Calciopoli scandal, what was it like living through that?
Another trouble again. I'm going to be in trouble. I'm not coming out for a week.
What was it like living through that as a player and then deciding to leave after only being with the club for 1 year?
It was really difficult because when I was in Juventus, we had a fantastic team. On the field, was my wife checking my rules?
Oh, no, it's a player. You gotta pick that up.
Sorry. Yes, moving to Juventus was one of the best team that I played for, because I remember when we played the World Cup final in 2006, France between Italy. I think we had 7 or 11 stars who was playing for Juventus, and we were quite really close off the field as well. And I spent only 1 year there, but I had some fantastic memories of Turin. I loved the team, I loved the club, I loved the city, and I was quite sad to leave after just a year because of the Calciopoli. And of course, it was difficult for us, the players, to understand it. And at the same time, I couldn't accept it to stay and play in Serie B in Italy. I wanted to stay in Serie A because that was a decision that I made. But I always loved this football club. I think it was one of the best football clubs I had the chance to play for.
Jonathan from Manhattan, as manager of this club, what keeps you up at night?
What kept me
What keeps you up at night?
up at night?
Yeah, like
I can't tell you what kept me up at the night. But no, I love the city. I think what I love about this city is, like we said, is a city who never sleep. Is everything's happening around, and I love going to the restaurant, seeing friends.
I meant more in terms of like managing the football club. Like,
Managing the football
yeah. This club, I'm sorry. What keeps you up?
You know, my mind was already somewhere else. Exactly. I thought you were talking about the city.
No.
About
My mistake.
about the team. I think it's just about try to improve the team. I think, you know, something that I really learned since I'm a coach of this football club or the professional level is that your mind is never out of the game. You're having a dinner with the family, you're thinking about training next day. You are preparing the game, you try to think about what is the best starting 11. You're thinking about, thinking about different scenario, if you're losing, if you are winning, you're going at 5 at the back or you're going at 3. You don't stop thinking about the game, and this is something that I didn't expect at all. You're spending time with the family. You're still thinking about what can happen tomorrow, and this is just the love and the passion for the game.
Thank you.
He has one more.
Okay, you may.
Is there any truth to the Andres Struna rumor?
Who?
Or maybe not. Struna coming center back from.
Who?
You are now
That was the
sure
last
that you're
question.
not
That was
going
the
to get an
last
answer. Thank you so much, Patrick. But just to be clear, I think you get an idea how fortunate we are to spend a lot of time with. But for you to be here and you get an opportunity to see what kind of person Patrick is, he gives his time up very freely. He's very open. I especially appreciate the fact and respect the fact that he's open to learning about his position day in and day out. But most of all, we've become good friends. And Patrick, it was my pleasure today. I'm very honored. It was a privilege, man.
Pleasure.